Namaskar. A very warm welcome to our panelists and all participants. NDIM webinar series are a part of NDIM's leadership responsibility towards enhancement of education and knowledge, being India's first and the only B school declared as Mentor Institute by the AICTE and CII. Today's speakers are some of the most eminent leaders and don't need a formal introduction, but for the benefit of everyone present, I will briefly introduce them. Honorable Sri Suresh Prabhuji has held 10 important cabinet portfolios in the Union of India. He continues to be the official emissary of the Prime Minister of India at the G7 and G20 forums. He has been shaping the official agenda of the Government of India on key issues and has led delegations across the globe. He was also the chairperson of the Task Force for Interlinking of Rivers in the Cabinet Minister's rank. He is a member of Parliament Rajya Sabha from Andhra Pradesh and has been a member of Parliament in the 11th, 12th, 13th and 14th Lok Sabha from 1996 to 2009. He is also the chairman of Saraswat Cooperative Bank Limited and is the youngest ever chairman of one of the largest cooperative banks of the country. Mr. Prabhu is connected with over 150 social and cultural organizations. Our next panelist is the most respected chairman AICTE, Professor Anil D. Sahasrabuddhe. Dr. Sahasrabuddhe is a professor of mechanical engineering at the IIT Guwahati. In his illustrious career of 31 years, he has held several important academic, research, and administrative positions. He is also the chairman and expert member on various national level committees. Our third panelist is Chairman NDIM, Dr. V.M. Bansal. He is a former civil servant and has been the youngest and the longest serving Secretary, Collector, Commissioner, Principal Commissioner, and Director of the country's biggest statutory urban authority, the DDA, for 28 years. He has headed several public sector organizations and was advisor to the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi at the time of Commonwealth Games. May I request Dr. Bansal to initiate the proceedings?
It's a great honor. All the participants, thank you very much for being with us. I'm extremely happy to have Suresh Prabhu sir, one of the only persons perhaps in the country who has been a union minister for 10 cabinet berths in the last 25 years. So Suresh Prabhu sir will today lead us to various models of rural development, because as we see today, especially after post-COVID, the intentions and the activities of the Government of India and also of almost all the chief ministers are being focused in a very big way towards rural economy and rural development. I personally see a big positive out of COVID, that is the growth of rural economy and recognition of the role of rural masses who are playing in that direction. So today, a very large number of participants, they are continuing to join. So we are going to have participants from academia, from students, and from so many people across the world who have shown interest in being with us today. And also there's a very large pool of corporates who are supporting us all the time. So Dr. Anil Sahasrabuddhe Sahab, Chairman AICTE, is one of the most positive, one of the most supportive AICTE chairmen, at least I have seen in my life. He's always available 24/7, not only to us, but to every institution of the country. And his coming at our platform is a big honor to us, and also a big support to the cause that we are pleading today is of the rural economy. So Sahasrabuddhe Sahab, I'll request him after Suresh Prabhuji to guide us possibly on literacy in the rural areas and what are the future of Indian graduates who will be passing out after 1 year or after 2 years, because there's a big uncertainty in the minds of students as to what is going to happen to their careers. Thank you very much, sir, and may I request my most respected Suresh Prabhu Sahab to kindly enlighten us on a very, very hot topic of the day. Thank you very much, sir.
So thank you, Bansal ji. Thank you, Dr. Sahasrabudhe, my old friend, and thank you, Ankur, for initiating these proceedings and the people who are watching this program. We are going to discuss about how the new paradigm of rural development should take place. Why should we think about it? We have been doing rural development for a long time. We have Ministry for Rural Development in the federal government, central government. We have Ministry for Rural Development in all the states of India. And to top it all, after the 73rd and the 74th Amendment, we have institutions of self-governance working at the district level, sub-district level, taluka level, as well as the village level, by a constitution, created by the constitution, to ensure that we have a funneling system, that all the various government schemes of central government, state government go through the right form at a village level. We have at every district a district rural development agency, DRDA. In addition to that, we have a district development body in which district planning, which is supposed to be the responsibility only of the district under the constitutional amendment, is also there. So we have various institutions, apparatus, which have been created over a period of time. But today, particularly after the coronavirus, and that's why we are meeting in this form, and not
Yes, sir.
Mansalgi has invited me to your institution, and of course,
You've been very kind all the time.
we would have been very happy to come, and of course, Sahasrabudhe, you also would have been happy to be there, I'm sure. But why we are
Yes,
doing
sir.
like this is because of a completely manifold changes that have taken place in the world in the last few weeks. It's unimaginable. Now people think how are this entire planet was created? So one theory is Big Bang theory, other is evolutionary theory, and we all believe, many of us believe, that there is a creator who made this world create. But if you accept the Big Bang theory, then it looks like Big Bang must be true because it suddenly happened as per that Big Bang theory. We feel God created it, but even then, the changes that have happened in the last few weeks looks like Big Bang changes. It could never imagine that world will change so much in such a short time. Impossible to think that 97% of the world's aircraft will be grounded. There will not be any movement of people. People will be still sitting at home when there is no visible war outside. And it is unimaginable change. So in that change, is not just in the human life, it's in the global system. Global institutions are crumbling. If not physically crumbling, their legitimacy is crumbling. Their effectiveness is under threat. And in that context, we should have to think about everything afresh. We'll have to really think about the way of life has to really completely different than what we have been leading. And that brings us to an issue. The entire development paradigm, the so-called development, has to change. Why? Because the so-called development probably has led us to this situation. The so-called development model has put us under lockdown. Because the pandemic, though started in one city somewhere, has now affected the whole world. That means that a so-called development model has created threat to human life of a magnitude that was unimaginable. That makes us think, introspect, and find out whether we should look at all these so-called development model afresh. And now that gives us a new insight into what we should be doing. That's the guiding force. And recently, Prime Minister Narendra Modi made a very interesting statement. that led us to Atmanirbhar, which of course also coinciding with another idea of local. We should be local in our thinking or application. For a long time, we have been thinking that there is only one model for the world. And that model was that state will do everything. State means the government. And the role of state therefore increased manifold. It became all pervasive. So state was happy doing all that because it's like a big brother trying to help you all your problems. Now it's a different matter whether the problems are solved or not. There's the other model. And that model was that market will solve all your problems. That means the US and the Europeans, they came out with that idea. Eventually, they also realized over a period of time that it's not going to work. So they also started talking about market is fine, but we need social security net. And therefore, particularly the Scandinavians, the North Europeans, they started working on a model in which they will support the society in a very different way. They didn't abandon the market model, but they said market and state must go hand in hand. The state control model almost collapsed in 1991 in USSR. China in 1978, even before collapse of USSR, had started thinking about the efficacy of this model which Mao had started. 1949, Mao started the Cultural Revolution, which whether Cultural Revolution succeeded or not, but economic collapsed. There was a massive famine in China, which I don't know how many millions were killed or died. And Cultural Revolution killed people. The aftermath caused death of people. And therefore in 1978, when Deng Xiaoping took over, we had to think about a new model. But in Indian context, therefore, we cannot adopt any model of a kind that is coming from other parts of the world. Neither the Chinese model, nor the North European model, nor the American model, which is now almost under collapse, and American inspired model by other countries, we cannot adopt it. Then what is that we show? Or the USSR model, which again USSR itself has abandoned. There's no USSR anymore in any case. There's only Russia. The USSR came into so many different countries. Now we can call some of them as CIS countries. But therefore now we'll have to think about our own model. And that model would be, how can we make villages, the rural areas, develop more so that the people can be staying in their own villages and live happily. Gandhiji had talked about it. He had said if our villages develop, the country will be developed automatically. And over a period of time, when Dr. Abdul Kalam talked about Pura, providing urban benefits to rural areas. Now, using all these different ideas, unlearning is also part of learning. I think Sastha Budesab is here, so I should not be talking about learning anymore because he's master of education. But unlearning is also very important in life, while learning is equally important. So we have to unlearn from some models and learn from our own experiences, learn as a guiding principle from our ethos, our own culture, and develop a model which is our own model. And I think again, I have a problem with the word model, because models, it's good to be seen and a fashion show, a model. But otherwise, there is nothing like model. The society evolves, society changes. The human beings, what they think in the morning, they don't like in the afternoon. What you like for breakfast, you will discard it for dinner. So that is how the human nature is, human mind is. So model has to be for humans. And the human mind itself is so changing, so dynamic, how can a model which is be permanent? So there's nothing like model, it keeps changing. But in today's context, I think we can think about how to bring about rural development which will lead to national development. Not national development which will in turn will cause rural development. The idea was, particularly in 1991, when we came out with new economic policies, we thought there will be a trickle-down effect. If you grow the country at macro level, the effect of that macro development will slowly percolate down to rural areas. But I think somewhere the percolation tank disappeared. And the villages never got what they needed. So macro development will not necessarily bring about micro development. Not necessarily. So we want a different model. Can we make villages develop? So in turn, automatically, the micro development will lead to macro development. And to do that, I will talk about two experiences. My own personal experiences. One, as a commerce industry minister, I said if India is to grow at 3-4% more than their natural growth, that time we are growing at about 6-7%, we have to reach a 10% growth rate. How would it happen? Many measures are required at macro level. Getting foreign investment, getting more investment, domestic investment in India, improving savings rate, improving efficiency, improving competencies, many things, creating infrastructure, many things. But I said I will do that any case because that's my responsibility, but I will also think about something else. If all the districts of India start growing at 3% more than normal growth, what will be result into? Because all 726, 728 districts, 730 odd districts in India, in turn, constitute just India. So if all districts grow, India will definitely grow at that level. Because aggregation of all district growth is India's growth. So I said, let us think about district-led growth. So what I did was I chose 6 districts. North, which has elected Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and therefore they are very proud of the fact that they not only elected MP, but elected the Prime Minister. Varanasi in North. In East, Muzaffarpur in Bihar. In West, in Konkan, I'm sure Mr. Sahasrabudhe's parents must have come or some relatives must have come from Konkan. And I was elected 4 times Lok Sabha from there. So for district Sindhudurga Ratnagiri. So West, East, in South, Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh. And we took one more district deliberately, though, in Solan in Himachal. All these 6 districts, we asked National Council for Applied Economic Research and Indian Institute of Management to prepare a survey for this and find out how we can grow at 3%. The idea was that it should be based on the locally available resources. Resource includes human resource, which is the most precious resource, which in Bansalji is trying to develop in his management school. And if you prepare a model and find out, is it possible to grow 3% on that localized available data? Each one of those 6 reports has said they can definitely grow at 3-4% more. I'll give you an example, interestingly. Sindhudurga and Ratnagiri in Konkan on the west coast, which is 720 kilometers coastline, were one district at a time before they were divided into 2. And in that district, surprisingly, the one district was growing at say 8%, the other was going at 5-6%. Same topography. There was same district which was before it was divided into 2. So that means if only one district just looks at other district and same natural resources, same people, automatically 8% will be possible. So when we prepared for in Bihar, when I discussed it with Nitish Kumarji, the chief minister. He said, oh, this is perfect. You know, for your knowledge, I think you all know, because you eat it every season, the lychees come from Muzaffarpur. And that district has such entrepreneurship. The farmers produce the lychees, which are fantastic, the best lychees in the country. I'm sure if you can start export, you will be best in the world. One of the best in the world, if not the best. But that shows the capability of the district to grow. So if you do this, what will happen? The district will grow means people will grow. The incomes will grow, otherwise how the district will grow. This today's issue of migrant and other that we are discussing will automatically get addressed. The central government or the state government from macro level, we have to send, after development has taken place, we have to work on something else, which was started when the planning commission existed, which was rightly abolished by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In that we thought about inclusive development. That means development has already happened, now we come out with inclusive development as an afterthought. Here that is not necessary. The development would automatically have happened integrated into the development process. And that would have led to the nation growing more. So there is nothing like afterthought of doing development like this. So because of paucity of time, I'll stop here on that point and go to the other possibility. And that is,
Sir, please carry on.
no, NGO led model. I became member of parliament, as you said, from Lok Sabha 25 years ago. And I said first thing, and I realized it because before that I had worked in that area quite a lot and also been involved with so many organizations globally. I've been to almost 140 countries, so I've seen different parts of the world and realized the government's limitation of bringing development of people, of society. Government can do infrastructure, but society development, individual development is a different ballgame. So how do you do it? So we said we'll work through an institution and we called it Manav Sadhan Vikas Samstha. And we said we'll have a 6 development dimension. Environmental. So we started eco clubs. Physical. So we started giving gymnasium, Konkan Krida Prabodhini for this. Another institution, specialized institution, which will provide training for people, for health, for education, for physical welfare. Third, social. We are still fighting a problem of casteless. We will not allow people to come into your own houses because you belong to a particular caste. So we said we get rid of it in that level at village level. Fourth, we said we must have social, economic, but also people have some other ideas. People want to do something else. So we said economic development is a must. So we started, other dimension is economic. And one more dimension was added was spiritual. Because when we started developing this program, and I will tell you, we have trained more than 90,000 women for self-employment through various programs, including nursing, including Jana Shikshan Samsthan and many. But when somebody starts earning money, we should not spend it on drinking more. I'm not making a value judgment of drinking, but I'm saying you should not waste your money. That's your individual decision, of course. Or beat your wife because you're earning more money. And this has happened, I've seen with my own experiences that used to happen. So we said we should try to bring about that change. And so social, physical, intellectual. So we started giving computers to the school 25 years ago. Today there is nothing, no fancy. Dr. Abdul Kalam was my friend because when I was a power minister, he was the principal scientific advisor in the government. So he used to come to me and we used to discuss for hours ideas. So I said, why don't you come there? So he came and he was so inspired. And he said, the digital connectivity can be addressed and the digital divide can be addressed the way the Sindhudurga and Ratnagiri have done it through Suresh Prabhu. So because we started giving community computer by touch screens. So 6-dimensional development. So person is not just developed economically, but all his needs, emotional needs, cultural needs, social needs are also satisfied at the same time. So how do you do it? So we started creating Parivartan Kendras, 1 for 10 villages. And that Parivartan Kendra became a center for all these activities to be carried out. And because all these activities are carried out, will lead to transformation. So we call it Parivartan Kendra. Now we work in 2,000 villages. In each village, there are people who have some interest. Like somebody is interested in sports, he becomes Krida Vardhan. If somebody is interested in health, he becomes Arogya Rakshak. If somebody is interested to only organize people, we call him Swayamsevak. He becomes on his own ideas and he's trying to do it. So it's all different. So for Kala, Krida, Arogya, everything. And there are specialized institutions like Konkan Krida Prabodhini, Konkan Arogya Vardhani, Konkan Kala Akademi. All of these institutions support that particular trait in that person in the village. By bringing in the best of that trait, like sports, 12.5 acre sports complex will actually help people to carry out sports, but in a village, you have to carry out these activities. So this is a low-cost model in which government doesn't have to do anything, people will do it, they will implement the government programs, and therefore, there is nothing like government as a person who is going to say that I will do everything for you. No, government will be only a facilitator. The people will do everything. And people will do it, and that it will develop in them the so-called self-confidence, which now Prime Minister calls Atmanirbhar Bharat. So Atmanirbharta will come only when people will stand on their own feet. And to do on their own feet, they must be economically strong, but also they should not be socially divided. But there are other traits, other needs of a human being, whether it is emotional, cultural, social, also should be satisfied. So all the total will really lead to Manav Sadhan Vikas Samstha. That Manav Sadhan will be developed into a different model. We have more than 260 institutions, local institutions, small NGOs, who have become part of us. There are few hundred thousand, not few hundred, but few thousand volunteers who work on this program on their own without paying anything. The idea is that this Parivartan Kendra will become a center through which many government schemes will be implemented in the villages, for which I said 6-dimensional development, the 6 interest groups are identified. Women, farmers, youth, fishermen, because that's a coastal area, ex-servicemen, and I forget one, so 6 interest groups. And all these 6 interest groups would actually be serviced. So we created all the central government program of how they can be implemented for only interest groups. So there are so many ministries. And these ministries, each ministry has got program for women. So, but women is one. So why not we make the program rather than ministry-wise, the interest group-wise? And that's when I prepared that program. It took me months, even though I was the minister. Atal Bihari Vajpayee released that book, which I had prepared. And he was so impressed, he said, fantastic, I am now trying to prepare a new one. So implementing government schemes through people themselves is something which we are trying to do. So the whole idea would be that villages not only will develop, but people will develop along with the development process. They will be self-reliant. So we'll develop human capital, which in turn will lead to transformation of economy as well. And therefore, I can go on, but I know you have told me that you have a limitation of time. So I'll stop here, but I will only say that
we'll come back
we
to
are
you, sir.
coming out with a completely, and this has been working for a long time, idea of how do you rethink the development itself. The paradigm shift that is necessary in so-called development models. And I've said the problem with the word model, but can we therefore think differently and try to change? Basically, what are all the development models I talked about? See, they may be having some flaws here and there, but what was the objective? Was to bring about development of people. So if a model succeeds, but people development doesn't happen, what is the use of a model? So therefore, if you make everything people-centric, that is how we'll really bring about a change. So I think this is what we'll try to do, and we have been doing. But I will request Dr. Satyabuddhe to speak.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. In fact,
more enlightening and more relevant and more important than what I just spoken.
No, sir.
I will only tell you that we'll all work together to accomplish the overall common goal of Atmanirbhar Bharat, at the same time developing local economies, which will lead to from local to global, which will lead to local products going global, but at the same time, local people also benefiting from it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. No, I remember 3 years back in your office, You even told me that in case our students could pick up certain districts, as you mentioned right now, and identifying what are the strengths, what are the local crafts of those districts, and how to market them, how to produce them so that every district's economy grows. This has been, you have been pursuing it all these years. And also that you mentioned is that government should be acting as a facilitator. So there, we have seen Dr. Sahasrabudhe actually withdrawing from our regulation and actually becoming a facilitator all these years. So may I request you, sir, you kindly guide us. One is on this rural thing, two is the uncertainty in the education sector, and especially big uncertainty in the minds of students who feel that they may not be having any jobs after 1 to 2 years. So I'm sure you are taking so many positive steps. Future is very bright, but sir, we will like you to hear from your mouth as to what exactly you say.
Yeah, thank you, Bansalji. But after Sri Suresh Prabhuji's eloquent address, in fact, he touched upon almost all the systems that are existing across the globe and what is needed to be done in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat. So after that, my speech would be, or my talk would be very much less additive in that sense. And then he talked about me being an academician. He's more of an academician. He was like a professor with full of vigor, with actions. He was explaining what was at the core of his heart. And I know that is most important. When it comes from the heart, that touches the lives of the people. So I think with that, I really was very impressed by what all things have been done in the Konkan area. You rightly said my ancestors come from Ratnagiri district. Maybe 6-7 generations ago, we have been settled in Karnataka from quite some time. But nevertheless, our roots are in the same place where you belong to. So I think with that, let me come back to the topic, that is new model for rural development, which Suresh Prabhuji has very eloquently talked about. So let us reflect back, and right before independence, Mahatma Gandhiji always talked about what is known as Grama Swarajya, self-reliance or self-governance at the local level. I think that is being sort of reinvented in some different manner. We had also a philosophy of Antyodaya by Deen Dayal Upadhyay, who also said, unless we touch the last man on the street, I think our development model is meaningless. You have a large number of millionaires and billionaires, is no use unless a man in the village, a man in the slum is also equally happy as that of a person with a good amount of wealth. I think that's what is Antyodaya, reaching to the last man. Then the Pura concept, which also was narrated by Suresh Prabhuji about Kalam Saab, who wanted that every village should be self-sufficient, independent, and should be able to handle what are the requirements by local manufacturing, local use as far as possible. We never say that we should not depend on others. Even the present Atmanirbhar Bharat, it doesn't say that we don't depend on outsiders. There are some things which we will have to import from outside, but something we will export also. But whatever is possible within the country, whether it is in terms of manufacturing, whether it is in terms of agriculture, I think we should produce it ourselves so that our money going out will be reduced to the extent possible. So I think that is the Atmanirbharta, self-sufficiency that we are talking about. And Suresh Prabhuji talked about his experiments in Konkan, the Parivartan, very important. I like this word Parivartan for a different reason, but many a times we often make use of a word called, that in education, in many of these things, we always say that whenever there is a crisis and new things will come in, we use the word called disruption. So the educational disruption and economic disruption, I think disruption is a negative word. Disruption is something which brings in negativity. On the other hand, if that is leading to something positive, why should the word be that? The right word to be used is transformation, that is Parivartan. So I think the transformation that happens in whether education sector, financial sector, economic sector is very significant and important. Now, coming back to the issue of rural India, I think we somehow lost touch, and that is why, since there was not enough employment, not enough income in the villages, our poor villagers started coming to the cities, gravitating towards towns and cities, and finally, since they have a very low income in the city on the basis of normally daily wages, and which is what we have seen during this lockdown, many of them wanted to go home. You know the migrant labor problem. I think all of them, they came from villages to the cities in search of jobs, and because jobs were not available in the villages, and this brought in a low income group in the cities who cannot afford a good housing, and therefore even slums got created. I think therefore if we have to reverse this cycle, and if the goal of whether Mahatma Gandhi, whether it is the Deen Dayal Upadhyay or the Abdul Kalam, or what Prabhuji has said about Parivartan, I think the route or the road comes from villages. The development of nation cannot come from cities, but it will come from the villages. And therefore, Atmanirbhar Bharat will come from Atmanirbhar Gaon. And गाँव को आत्मनिर्भर बनाना बहुत बहुत जरूरी है. So AICTE thinking about all of this, and also Government of India's call for what is known as Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, producing at least some villages which are model villages, asking all parliamentarians, asking all legislators to adopt villages in their constituency and try to develop them as a model village, so that best practices of that place can be learned by the neighboring villages, neighboring districts, and thereby the entire area gets developed. I think that was the model. And our Prime Minister often uses always a different terminology. And all along we have been talking about backward districts. He has used the word aspirational districts. So I think Modi ji's phenomenon of Atmanirbharta, or the aspirations of the people of the villages, have to be met. So under this Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, where we also asked all the colleges and the universities to adopt at least 5 villages in their neighborhood and give a taste of the life of the villagers for these students who might have come, some of them from villages, but many of them from towns and cities, to understand what are the challenges that exist in our rural areas and whatever education they are getting. Ultimately, education is for benefit of the society, not for only your family. Yourself, your family, and then the society at large is to be benefited from the education which we get. And that is what Swami Vivekananda also often said. And therefore, if we get a taste and flavor of the villages and what they are at and what are the challenges that they are facing, I'm sure many of them will get sensitized, and that empathy gets developed, and many of them may get settled down in the villages. So we started this program of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, also under Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana, SAGI, and this AICTE's program of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. We tried to link them together and said whatever schemes are there of the Government of India through the members of the Parliament, can you implement them in those villages? Can you prepare project reports? Because they don't know how to do that. And then we keep on blaming them that they are not doing anything. How do we empower them? And therefore, we drew 14-point agenda. So I'll not deal with each one of them, but how do we create educational value in that village? How many of the students who fail in the examinations at the 10th and 12th level, we make 100% result for that village. How some of them will come into higher education, whether it is skill education in vocational field or in terms of whether engineering, medicine, arts, commerce, science, anything of that sort, higher education on one side. How the agriculture, which is the main theme of the rural India, how advanced agricultural practices whereby better productivity is built in. At the same time, environmental degradation does not take place. That means artificial manures not being used, using the local resources as manure. Can we do that? So agriculture development, health sector in terms of can we create some of them as health workers, thereby they will be able to take care of the local needs right there. I think economic development in terms of not only producing the food materials, that is whether fruits, whether it is agricultural products, but value addition to that in terms of converting them into useful higher value products, thereby the earnings of the farmers can increase. We often talk about doubling the income of the farmers as one of the agenda of the government, but rather than agenda of only the individual farmers, how the entire village economy develops, how they mutually help each other in collaborative manner, and the village income doubles or triples, thereby automatically the income of all the people in the villages increases. And with the purity of the environment, the air that they breathe in, many of the people who are residing in the towns and cities will then gravitate towards villages rather than doing that. Even medium scale, small scale industries, which become a pipeline to the larger industries, so that you have good roads and transportation available. And today, most important thing government has done is electricity has reached every village. But today, the digital infrastructure has become more important, because some of the college students who went home during the lockdown were not in a position to attend the online lectures, online classes, because they themselves did not have access to internet. Sometimes internet access is there, power access is not there. So I think electricity and digital connectivity are going to be the main themes, like we used to develop roads, bridges and dams, airports and railways. I think very strong internet bandwidth connectivity to the remotest corner of the country is going to become prominent and important. And if you do that, I think many things can be achieved. But again, I reflect back to the era of my student days in late 70s and 80s, when some of these top institutions, I studied in Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. We had a center called ASTRA, Application of Science and Technology to Rural Areas. But unfortunately, all the research that was being done by 35, 40 odd departments was all in high-tech science and technology. But there was one department called Astra or center in a remote corner. Hardly any student used to go there. I think that is where connect between all other departments of the institution and the centers like that. Similarly, in IIT Bombay, there is a center called Sitara. So again, it is taking care of the application of science technology to rural areas. IIT Delhi has similar center for science and technology application to rural areas. So many institutions of excellence did develop some of these models, but they remain models and nothing was implemented in a big way. And that is why this Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, which was made mandatory, and many of them get excited by going there, I think has created dividends. We started what is known as Chhatra Vishwakarma Awards for students who do innovative projects for doing all those 14 activities in the villages, for doubling the income or for creating social awareness, how all girl students become entrepreneurs, at least 5 of them in a village. I think these are the areas which our students started addressing, and we had a transformation happening, the Parivartan which was happening in Ratnagiri and Sindhudurga districts, similarly in many of the districts. Sir, your model of 6 districts being selected and 6 groups in 6 real hardcore areas, I think we have to work together. I want Sri Suresh Prabhuji to help us in taking some of the students to those places, understand the nuances and how they can build similar best practices in the respective places. Because in every college, about 20% students come from rural areas, at least 20 to 30%. And many a times they are unfortunately lost. They are lost because of a couple of things. Number one, they come from their local medium, that is Hindi, Marathi, Gujarati, Bengali, Assamese, etc. And secondly, they come from mostly poor families. Thirdly, they are diffident because they have no self-confidence, overconfidence, etc. is no more there amongst them, because they are ones who are very simple people. And when they come to the college and everything starts in English, and some of the smart guys from convent education start speaking in English, they feel that they are lost. Actually, they have nothing to offer or learn, and therefore many of them go down actually, psychologically upset. And therefore our 3-week student induction program is one of the very powerful programs which develops values, which develops tool of collaboration between urban and rural, which makes them understand, which makes them empathetic, which makes them to own the institution. I think this is what is required, that ownership has to be developed if we want to become Atmanirbhar Bharat, Atmanirbhar Gaon. I think that self-confidence has to be developed, and programs of this nature where people will understand the small nitty-gritty details and how it is not impossible, but it is certainly possible. And that is the spirit with which, if we go ahead, the COVID-19 has given us a lot of lessons. The world has changed in a very, very big way, and making use of the learnings of this in the future, if we develop a real model, a model which is village oriented and going from downwards to upwards, I think bottoms up approach, I'm sure we will certainly become Atmanirbhar on one side, and also teach the whole world, not just for our country becoming Atmanirbhar, how every country can become Atmanirbhar. That model can be given by India to the rest of the world. I think I will stop here.
No,
10 minutes for me to
thank-
go to the other session.
no, thank you so much, sir. But before you leave us, the students, because 40% of the participants here are students from various colleges, they have that question as to, Atmanirbhar, everybody is working, Prime Minister is leading, you people, Suresh Prabhu Saab, you have been carrying out tremendous innovations and changes in all the sectors that you're dealing with. What is the hope the current student, when they graduate in 2021 or 2022? I'm sure they should have a lot of hope, but they want to, listen from you exactly, what exactly you think of that. So that they work back dedicatedly onto what they're doing rather than feeling, distressed or disappointed.
No, I would like to, because you have asked me to add something more, I will add few things very
Sir,
important for our
yeah,
students.
yeah.
Be self-confident that this phase will also go. This has come as a shock to all of us, but this phase will also pass off. And therefore, don't be too much worried about this. Present today, what we need to do is to not spread this coronavirus. We need to be very careful in terms of taking all precautions, whether it is in terms of using masks and social distancing or physical distancing, what we call about. But at the same time, learning should never stop. So from whatever mode, whether it is through the Swayam Prabha DTH channels, or whether it is through wherever internet is available through Swayam platform or many other platforms, there are free software which are AI guided learning platforms which are available. Therefore, students should make use of in order to learn new techniques and technologies on one side. And our philosophy of internship, because I have been telling all the people today, we watch Mahabharata every day probably because we are all locked out at home. But three important aspects of Bhagavad Gita, that is Jnana Yoga, that is the knowledge which is all available at our disposal through internet and face-to-face mode, is only theoretical. When coupled with Karma Yoga, that means experiential learning, practice-oriented learning, implementation of the project, and going to villages and learning their problems and solving the problems will make them Karma Yogi. And Bhakti Yoga is not prayer, but Bhakti Yoga in the today's sense is total devotion, commitment to the cause. So if in education sector we are committed, we are passionate, we put in our best, we collaborate, and if we try to do all that and do work as well as do learning and lifelong learning, I think we will succeed in our efforts. And jobs or no jobs, don't worry too much about them. There will be some problem because of the economic downturn, because of the GDP being low, many of the units being closed. They may allow you to join after 3 months, 6 months, and so on. But some of you should become entrepreneurs and create jobs for others rather than seeking jobs from these companies. In fact, you can become an owner of a big company, provided you make use of all the knowledge that you have acquired, the internship which you have done. Please make best use of that and become self-reliant. Atmanirbhar should start from self, from the individual to the village, to the society, to the nation. I think that's where we stand.
So thank you so much, sir. I mean, it's a big learning for the students. 3-6 months may be hard, but I'm sure 15 months, 20 months from now, the guys who graduate in 2021 or 2022, I'm sure this Atmanirbharta will take them way, way ahead. And this model of the Prime Minister is going to take our country to a much better level than other comparable countries. As Suresh Prabhu Saab has said, USSR, USA models failing. So I certainly feel that the future belongs to the next generation and future belongs to our country. And this COVID has perhaps given us an opportunity to be one up from all other nations in the coming days. That's what I presume. We keep learning from you people, and we keep trying to put everything into place that we learn from you. So that is what is trying to helping us, stand out in various platforms. All our existing students are also, you'll be happy to know, all of them are doing their summer internships virtually. And most of them, we have made it mandatory, will be doing 2 summer internships virtually. So we are trying to take care of the situation. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us. I know you have the other commitment, and now we'll come back.
Please allow me to leave. सुरेश प्रभु जी नमस्कार.
धन्यवाद. We'll be in touch. We'll be in touch.
तो आपको अभी हैंडल करना है उनको.
We'll be in touch. We'll be in touch.
So people are waiting for questions, from Suresh Prabhu Saab. And thank you so much, sir, Anil Sahasrabudhe Saab. Thank you very much for being always supporting NDIM in a big way. Thank you so very much. Very grateful. Thank you so much. So, anchors, please take up questions with Suresh Prabhu Saab.
Yeah, yes, sir. So, sir, we have a very senior chartered accountant, Anil Ji, who has been connected to village development and Ekal Vidyalaya for long and has been developing informal skill development center in rural areas. So I would request Anil Ji to ask question. Yes, he has joined us.
Yeah, नमस्कार सुरेश जी, मेरा क्वेश्चन आपसे है जी, when we analyze our earlier efforts made for rural development, why they have not yielded any result. We normally found that investment has more gone into anti-poverty programs rather than into, and that has gone into welfare transfer, rather, I mean, just giving money to them rather than raising rural income. So I think after that, some effort has been made, like skill development programs has been initiated. But unfortunately, that has also not yielded result because some development which was required in other areas, like when we talk about skill development, how those skills which has been developed are going to be absorbed, that aspect was not taken care of. So my question, in this background, my question to you is, sir, what is the role of education as well as technology you see into rural development, and especially when we talk about beyond agriculture?
First of all, you are my fellow professional, so thank you for. Of course, so when I am answering question to you, I have a great regard for what you are saying, and I fully agree with you. Your prognosis is 100% correct, and that's what I started saying. I don't know whether you could get time to hear what I was saying earlier. You were there when I spoke. So yes, I will just tell you, whole thinking was that if I tell a person that don't worry, the government will take care of you, that's the end of his career, because then he will never try to do anything on his own. Which I keep saying that I'm my only child is my own son. In my case, even I cannot tell my son, don't worry, I am there, because I'm going to go before him. So if I'm going to go before him, how can a government tell 130 crore people that don't worry, I am there? You cannot tell like that. So only way development will happen is one, when people themselves will like to develop themselves. One. Secondly, what you like, though we are same chartered accountants, will not be the same thing I like. You may be interested in spirituality when I may be interested in sports. You may be interested in working in United States. I want to stay in a village. So we are different people, though we come from the same background. Two brothers don't think same way. Even twin brothers don't think the same way. So what is important is, even if we make them stand on their own feet economically, even then the development may not happen because he had some other ideas which he could not fulfill. He has earned money, but he's not happy in life because he wanted to be an artist. A person who has earned money, but is still not happy because he wanted to work in a health field, he's not getting time to do that because his job makes him work in an engineering field. So unless, therefore, we go into the entire aspect of what is human development, the human development is not just economic development. It is something more than that. That's why we said we are working in a experimental basis, and I'm sure we'll benefit from your knowledge and experience, and we can work together actually, is how can we develop that person's inner requirement in addition to taking care of his economic growth. If you marry both at the same time, that will be a development. So I think this is what we are trying to do. And in that, I fully agree, the role of education. I'll tell you, we run a Jana Shikshan Sansthan. My wife actually has worked a lot. She's a journalist. She was editor of many institutions, including so many top publications in the country. And she is also was focusing on education. She used to be editor of Education Times. So she started working on this, and we are trained more than 80,000 women for self-employment through Jana Shikshan Sansthan in Sindhudurga district. And now we will start working in Ratnagiri also. We have already worked, but more in Ratnagiri. And that together is the role of education. If you educate them properly, education is again different. Education is not only science and mathematics or management. It is something more to educate them to be on their own. The second aspect of technology that you asked me is also important. We are tied up with CII. And CII and we are working together to also make technology-oriented training. Wherein simulations can be used, wherein new models can be developed, wherein people can learn on different skills of a different kind. So skill development, I fully agree with you. The skill development cannot be a ritualistic training. Skill development has to be motivated by understanding the person, so aptitude has to precede skill development actually. Then if you provide him skill and there is no application of that skill in a place that he lives, what is use of that skill? So you must do the proper mapping of that availability. So this, I talked to you about one, what Jana Shikshan Sansthan, Manav Sadhan Vikas Sanstha, Konkan Krida Prabodhini, Konkan Agrodhini, that is all what we are trying to do through NGOs. But as a minister, when I got this opportunity, I started saying that we'll use the entire government machinery, state, central, local. And all the 6 districts, we actually aligned all those government machinery to actually work on issues like this. That let us understand in that district, what is that district itself can absorb. How can they be happy with that? Because if you actually uproot a person and take him from his village into some big city, he's lost. He may be earning more, but he's not happy. Because he was happy going to the river in the morning, going in the woods in the evening. It is not possible for him. So why should he uproot a person? Why not make him develop in his own village, in his own surrounding, in his own happy ecology, ecosystem? So I think that is what I fully agree with you. And therefore, your prognosis is correct, as well as what you are saying, the role of education and technology, very relevant.
Sir, just one more connected question. You see, we have seen during this period that there are a lot of startups. They have really played such an important role in connecting rural supply chain to urban. And they have proved, I mean, they have done very good job. I mean, we definitely require some very substantial support to them. So is there any program on that issue also?
See, again, I can only speak about when I was a minister, we had a very big startup program. I was responsible for it. And Prime Minister's full support. So we actually were giving a lot of support. I don't want to give you, because there are too many questions others. But we have done many things for startup. I got a roundtable for startups first time in 6th of December in Goa, 2018, in which I called all the investors to help the startup. I got a program of all regulators. I used to bring them, and on other side of the table were startup. And I used to tell regulator that you are regulating your old ideas, whereas these people are coming with new ideas, and you are saying it is, I cannot regulate because your idea is old. So I said, they are breaking from the past, that's why they are startups. And you are still stuck in the past. So how do you work? So I think we have done many things.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Nikhil, please proceed here.
Sir, मेरा एक ही problem है. I have to go for some other program. I told him 3:45, but I'll be there for another 5-7 minutes. So if you can ask 2-3 questions together, we'll answer them together.
10 minutes, sir. Just there's so many questions.
Okay.
I'll ask only 2-3 questions.
10
sir.
minutes.
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Suresh sir. Suresh sir, we have as a participant, we have Mr. D.V. Shastri. He is Executive Director, GAIL India Limited. And he writes that it is indeed a matter of great pleasure to listen to Suresh Prabhuji. His initiative of Parivartan Kendra through Manav Sadhan Kendra is a wonderful and praiseworthy. My question is to know about the current status of the said initiative. If it is working well, how can we expand it to the other areas of the state and other states eventually, the whole country, for transforming the lives of our countrymen? This is from Dr. D.V. Shastri, Executive Director, GAIL.
So Shastri ji, actually, by definition, you are Shastri, so I am your student. I would request you, if you don't mind, and Bansal Saab, जो भी हमारे आज
Yes.
प्रोग्राम में है, उनको
Yes,
if you
sir.
share this www
जी
dot
सर.
msvs
Sir.
dot org
Sir.
dot in.
Okay.
Again, I repeat, www dot
जी हाँ.
msvs dot
जी हाँ.
msvs is one dot org dot in.
जी सर.
वाई शास्त्री साहब आप जो पूछ रहे हैं स्टेटस क्या है, तो आपको उधर उसमें काफी कुछ मिल जाएगा. बट एनीथिंग यू वांट मोर, माय ईमेल आल्सो आई रिक्वेस्ट बंसल जी टू शेयर विथ यू, कैन राइट टू मी and I will pass on to my colleagues who actually look at it on day-to-day basis and will give it. But the point you're asking me is a very valid point. So firstly, you will know the status from there. We'll also know the activities, but if you know more, we'll give it. But what you are asking is a very pertinent question. In fact, that is exactly why we started it 25 years ago. First, replicability. We are always thinking that it should be replicable. And replicability will happen with little modification. For example, I told you that 6 interest groups in Konkan where we are working, we have fishermen. So maybe if you want to do it in Jabalpur, it may not be fishermen because there may not be fisheries activity there. Maybe may not be there because Jabalpur, of course, will not have coast area. So there will not be coastal fisheries, but inland fisheries is possible. But I don't know. I'm saying, not that I don't know, I'm saying it is possible. And therefore, replicability is possible with little modification. It's not cut and paste. It is using that ideas from there and do it. So it is absolutely right. It is replicable and its idea is least cost model. The problem is if the government programs are implemented and the cost of implementation is so high, then there is a problem down the road. So how do you make people themselves work on the programs as implementer as well as creator of ideas? What earlier my chartered accountant friend was asking, Gupta ji, isn't it? It's Gupta ji, the chartered accountant who asked me that question. Who?
Yeah, Anil Sharma ji.
Sharma ji. So that question is also what he was saying is absolutely right. That why the model so-called first to have failed is because we never thought about people. We said, I have an idea. And only all villages in India will implement that idea because Rural Development Ministry cannot have every different village, different program. So now I think it's definitely replicability, but not necessarily blindly just copying it. Replicability doesn't mean copy. So we have to work like that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
But Shastri ji will be in touch anytime you feel like
I will.
family, because I have been, one of my passion is energy. In fact, only the other day I spoke for 1 hour on energy because I am the founder chairman of Council for Energy, Environment and Water. I am the founder chairman and I didn't want to work in silos. So I said energy, environment and water. But energy is my passion. I should be chairman of Asia Energy Forum. I worked on energy globally. Therefore, I would be very happy, Shastri, with you.
I'll take the pleasure.
As Sharma ji is my professional colleague, a chartered accountant, you are from my family of my interest. Yes.
I have the pleasure of connecting you, sir.
Sir, thank you so much, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, we have another question. This question is, could rural entrepreneurship turn out to be the one factor that transform the rural economy? And what do you think the government and other independent businesses could do to promote rural entrepreneurship in the country, sir?
See, actually, rural entrepreneurship is the only way. And we always feel rural entrepreneurship is something different. All our farmers are entrepreneurs. We don't recognize their entrepreneurship. We think entrepreneurship is only some business model. Those poor farmers, the biggest ability of an entrepreneur to succeed is taking risk. There is no other entrepreneur in the world as farmer in India who takes bigger risk than what farmer does. Entrepreneurship is ingrained in his mind, but he has no time because his time goes in the field. So if you allow him to go a little bit out of the field, not necessarily him, but his family, because his entire family works in the field today. So there is disguised employment. So actually people are working more than what they necessary on the farm. So that is what exactly our program is, that take people away from farms who are not interested in farming, give them skills, use technology, give education, so they will be trained on their own and they will be able to earn on their own. Now, the government should support it, but also industry should support it. So we have tied up with Confederation of Indian Industry, CII, so that this can be scaled up on a larger scale. We are also thinking of training people for sending them abroad. For example, my wife always thinks that health worker, and this is what she was thinking even before COVID happened, that why not we create health worker, because she runs a nursing school for 25 years and that too in a rural area. And all, see, whatever I am doing, we say rural area, 2000 villages. And those nurses, those health workers, paramedics can go abroad. Why only in India? So that was her vision, and she's working on it. In fact, she works more, I talk more. So she's the one who's responsible for this, and she has done a phenomenal work on it. I think when she's the chairperson of Manav Swadharsh Vikas Samstha. So whenever you write to me, I will request her to also respond.
All right. So, VM sir?
Nikhil, please proceed.
All right. So
you can
sir,
ask 2 more questions, then I will have.
No, I have a question here.
Yeah.
Please ask me.
Yeah, sir. So the next question is, the government vision in 2020 is to digitally connect all public institutions at Gram Panchayat level, such as Anganwadis, health and wellness centers, government school, PDS outlets, post offices, and police stations. How do you see the rural transforming as the result of this vision, and how do you think, how long it will take, sir?
See, there is already quite a big progress made on it. Prime Minister Modi is personally monitoring it.
Yes, sir.
And therefore, it is going to be a transformative action. See, when the information reaches a village, as much as information you and me have got, because we live in cities, the entire digital divide goes. And this is what exactly I was talking about when we started this program 25 years ago, when we started this bridging digital divide. And that's why it was Dr. Abdul Kalam was so happy looking at it. He used to always mention it everywhere, that when I saw this Konkan program, Suresh Prabhu program, it was not Suresh Prabhu program, but our combined program, Manav Swadharsh Vikas Samstha, we could actually transform it in a big way. So this is a very transformative step. I agree with you. Now, when it will be completed, I don't have the exact information, but I think it is progressing quite well. Okay. I think, please, I have to go somewhere.
Sir,
you can ask me one question, last question. Yes.
Nikhil, you asked last question, then I will take one more. Last question is mine, sir.
But just, I have to go actually, because it's already 1:20.
Yes, then I will take the last question.
Please.
Sir, because, today there are about, as I mentioned earlier, about 40% people who are students, another 30% from the academia. So you are aware, you have been a big support to us, you have been a big support to the whole nation. How do you see the future of these students turning out after 1 to 2 years, sir? What are the great possibilities? What fields do you think are going to open up for them?
See, let us look at it like this.
Yeah.
You are all management students.
Yeah.
So the management student job is to manage.
Yeah.
So management becomes more important when the situation becomes more challenging.
Quite right.
You see, the situation was normal. There's nothing to manage. Everything is happening properly. What is the problem? What is to be managed? So in fact, because that situation has become so challenging,
quite right.
Really focus on properly understanding what the challenge is. You must understand that first. If you don't know the challenge, how will you manage it?
Perfectly.
So if you look at the uncertainty is a problem for any business. Absolutely right. But uncertainty only creates opportunities.
Quite right.
Everything was certain. Where is the opportunity? If I
right.
sit in my car and I know I'm going to reach there automatically, the driverless car. Suppose if I sit in the car, then I do nothing. I just do meditation probably.
Yeah, very
so
right.
Now the situation is going to be challenging. That's why opportunities will come. Don't get disheartened. If you think now nothing is going to happen, nothing will happen. I'll tell you something. But if you think I am now going to use this as a challenge and opportunity, things can change. And that is how in my whole life I lived. I always took up on challenges. And I had different ministries. Every ministry I went there, the secretary will come and brief. First time, the minister the brief on the first few days by the officers. So he'll talk about 100 challenges. So if I heard the challenges, I'll not be able to sleep for the rest of my career as a minister. So I said, forget it, I will take upon myself. What is there? When I became power minister, there was no power. And I was a power minister, powerless minister. So I said, I will change it and make it power surplus, which actually I succeeded.
Yeah.
Only by one law, Electricity Act. I'm going to speak about it in some other webinar in next 2 days.
Okay.
So how one act could transform it. So don't get disheartened.
Very right.
Yes, I will not tell you false thing. I will not tell you challenges. There are challenges, big challenges. But don't get disheartened. Every generation faces different kind of challenges. Of course, no generation has faced these challenges. That also you must accept, and which is a fact. This is unprecedented. But unprecedented challenges can create unprecedented opportunities.
Very right.
Let us take it up. Don't worry.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. The very one line that you mentioned, that, the bigger the challenge, the bigger need for management experts, who can manage and administer the things. I'm sure that's a very big hope for each one of us, sir. And we have been, Manav Sansthan, we have been in touch with ma'am. We have seen all that. And sir, the Japanese things are opening up in a very, very big way now. So we'll once again brief ma'am onto that, because we being the only center approved by the Government of India, only MBA college for teaching Japanese and for taking Japanese knowing students to Japan and other countries. And now Japanese companies coming to India in a very big way. I think, sir, there's a big opportunity happening on that front also.
No, sure. And we'll be working together, Bansal Saab.
Kindly,
I
sir.
promise. And Ankur is taking over as a new generation professional. So I think we'll all work together. And I got a great regard for VM Bansal Saab, who has been doing it a great job with always smiling face and never daunted by the challenges he faces. You think, my dear student friends, you think what challenges Mr. Bansal must be facing? Have you thought about it? Or have you thought about the problems? You go to your father. I mean, I'm talking to a student. You go to your father, father will tell you how many problems he has got. Does father tell you your problems? Father never tells you, because he wants your child to be happy. Don't worry about it, my friends. Problems are there, problems will be there, and we'll find solution to the problem. Take that as a starting point. And suddenly we'll see there is, I will not say light at the end of the tunnel, but you'll see the darkness is behind the tunnel.
Very right. So
Thank you.
that's very encouraging. And for all the people from the academia and students,
I have to go, Bansal Saab.
Suresh Prabhu Saab is on our board of directors and a very big guide and support all the time.
You want to do one thing, Ankur?
Yes,
please
sir.
share that website I told you, www.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we have it, sir. We have it.
So share with everybody. Also, anybody wants to write an email, they can do that. Just share my email.
We will do that,
I
sir.
will just tell you my email, very simple to remember, suresh@sureshprabhu.com. suresh@sureshprabhu.com. So please send me, I will be. Thank you, Ankur. I have to go.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sir, sorry for delaying you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. We are very grateful to all the participants. I'm sure we are taking home some learning, some hope, and I would say great hope, because of people like Suresh Prabhu and people like Chairman AICTE. Suresh Prabhu, who has held 10 cabinet ministries and closest to the Prime Minister at all international forums. If they are saying that darkness is behind us, I'm sure you need to work very hard and take advantage of this COVID and be not just successful, but more successful than the normal times. Wishing you all the very best to each one of you. Thank you so very much. Let's see once again next week we'll meet together. Thank you.